alinlanganan. Alam ng puso sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting. Sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong buhaw. May dalagang tula at awit sa paglayang inamahal. Ang islap ng wataw at lu'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magniningning. Lupa ng araw ng walhating ng sulta, huwag langit sa piling ko. Aming ligaya na pag may pangalit na pumatay ng dahil sa'yo.
To help and to inspire, we find ways to put people first, to be exceptional, giving our best in everything. Still, we know it's a long road to recovery, and the world will never be the same. So let's embrace change, knowing we can overcome these challenges. Every day we rediscover what's truly important. We find new ways to appreciate family, laughter, play. We find ways to bridge distances and be closer with each other. Together we are strong. Together we stand. Together we aim for a new day. We are Filipinos, and we find ways.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Campus Journalism Forum 2020. And to officially start this momentous event, we shall be calling our President and CEO of the Manila Times and also the Vice Chair of Manila College and concurrently the Acting Dean. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is Sir Dante Clink ang II.
Thank you, Dr. Viray. Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz and the reactors who will be introduced later. Student editors and future colleagues in journalism, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Manila Times, welcome to this Campus Press Forum, which is the culminating event commemorating the 122nd founding anniversary of our newspaper. The first issue of the Times came out this month in 1898, just 4 months after the Declaration of Philippine Independence in Kawit, Cavite. Even as we remember the past, our collective focus is turned toward the future, as it has been for more than a decade since we established the Manila Times College. That venture was motivated by a desire to help shape future professional journalists who would hopefully join and help lead the Times toward the next generations. It turned out that many of our graduates were not only good enough to join the Times, they were also accepted by many other media outfits, including the Philippine Daily Inquirer, the Philippine Daily Star, the Manila Bulletin, other national dailies, as well as ABS-CBN, GMA7, and even foreign media enterprises. What was not realized by the Times was at least a gain for this profession that we hold dear. We have embraced the role of being a teaching newspaper, which is why we have been organizing events and workshops for student journalists in high school and university for a few years now. We realize that our desire to contribute to the development of future journalists need not be limited to those who enroll with us. With that aim in mind, we are delighted that Mr. Flor Cruz, the former Beijing bureau chief of CNN, has accepted the invitation to share his views on the future of journalism and other information that promises to be helpful in preparing your respective careers in mass media. Although his successful career was partly the result of an unexpected exile in China during the martial law years, it is interesting to note that he began that journey as a student journalist. I believe that we can all learn much from him. I realize that we are all eager to hear his presentation, but let me just acknowledge BDO and the Private Education Assistance Committee, or PAYAC, both of whom made this event possible today. Allow me to also give some background about Campus Press, which is the weekly education section of the Manila Times. This section was set up to provide a national platform for student journalists like yourselves. We encourage you to contribute stories, photos, and even editorial cartoons, as many students have done over the years. I recall the thrill of seeing my own byline in the newspaper many years ago when I was also a student journalist. I did not know then if I would be successful or not, but seeing my name on print was enough to secure me on this career path. Back then, as an aspiring reporter in a university, I welcomed opportunities to listen, learn, and befriend professional journalists. I sought out their career advice and wise counsel. Looking back, the most helpful recommendations were to read and learn how to think critically. As mentioned in our theme today, Mr. Flor Cruz will cover critical thinking. As for the part about reading, let me encourage you to read the Manila Times and other newspapers regularly. Read books. Read what you are passionate about. Read out of your comfort zone. Read history for perspective. Read biographies for inspiration. Read at least 1 hour a day. If you nurture this habit, you should build up a reading speed that allows you to finish one book a week. Incidentally, we have made the Times easier for young people like yourselves to read it daily, and that is through our digital edition. It not only offers a replica of the paper edition, but it also has additional pages, all of them accessible on your desktop, mobile phone, and other gadgets for less than 100 pesos a month, and the first month is free. Lastly, let me announce that the Manila Times is opening nominations for its annual Campus Press Awards. I invite you all to submit your best stories in news, opinion, features, sports, photography, editorial, cartoon, and other categories. Winners will be announced early next year, most likely in January 2021. The deadline and other details will be published in the print and digital editions of the Times later. But for now, let us start the program. Again, thank you, and I hope that you all have a productive morning.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Klink. Before anything else, the Manila Times and the Manila Times College would like to thank again the following sponsors. We have Private Educational Assistance Committee, or PAYAP, and we have BDO. And BDO, we always find ways. And just like BDO, we are finding ways to make this event possible during this time of uncertainty. So with that, we would like to acknowledge the schools that are with us. So with that, anyway, sorry, sir. Today is truly a remarkable event as we are joined by 1,020 students who are taking journalism and mass communication courses. And also we have 129 other courses. So just like again, BDO, we are finding ways to do this one. And we have 36 participating schools from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So from north to south. Um, the following schools, we are joined by the following schools. We have Baliwag University. So, hi, Baliwag University. We have Centro Escolar University, Makati. De La Salle College of St. Benilde. DLSU Laguna Campus. Emilio Aguinaldo College, Manila. Emilio Aguinaldo College, Cavite. FEU Cavite. Infant Jesus Academy. Lyceum of the Philippines University, Manila. Lidlida National High School, Makati Hope Christian School, Marikina Polytechnic College, Manuel Luis Quezon High School, Mindanao State University, Mother Barbara Micarelli School, Pasig Catholic College, Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary, Philippine Science High School Main Campus, Philippine Science High School Calabarzon, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, San Beda University Rizal Campus, St. Michael's College of Laguna, STI College, St. Dominic College of Asia, St. Edward's School, Imus and Faith Campus, Treston International College, the Manila Times College Subic, the Manila Times College Manila, the University of Rizal System Antipolo Campus, Universidad de Manila, University of Caloocan City, University of Santo Tomas, University of Southern Mindanao, University of Eastern Philippines, University of San Agustin, and University of Asia and the Pacific. So thank you for joining us. I know that, again, this is a time of uncertainty, but you are still with us. Um, to go to our main event, we will now be introducing our speaker. Our speaker this morning, all right, our speaker this morning was a CNN Beijing bureau chief and correspondent, responsible for strategic planning of the network's news coverage of China. He has studied, worked, and traveled in China for more than 40 years and reported extensively on the country as journalist since 1980. When he started his journalistic career in China and worked as a reporter for Newsweek magazine. In 1982, he joined Time Magazine's Beijing Bureau and served as Beijing Bureau Chief from 1990 to 2000. He has witnessed and reported the most significant events of China's past 3 decades, including the country's economic and social reforms, the crackdown of Tiananmen protests in 1989, the death of Deng Xiaoping, and the 1997 Hong Kong handover. He has also covered cross-strait relations, the Sichuan earthquake, the 2008 Beijing Olympic, and the ethnic unrest in Tibet and Xinjiang. In addition, in addition to his on-air reporting, he has contributed regularly to CNN.com and is the writer of the weekly online column Jaime's China, offering analysis about Chinese society and politics. He is considered the dean of the Foreign Press Corps in Beijing, being the longest-serving foreign correspondent in China to date. He was two-term president of the 200-member Foreign Correspondents Club of China from 1998 to 1990 and 1996 to 1999. He was also the Edward R. Murrow Press Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations in New York. He is fluent in English, Filipino, and Mandarin Chinese. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in advertising from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines and a degree in Chinese history from Peking University. He is married to Ana Segovia Flor Cruz and has two children. He is the co-author of The Massacre at Beijing, a book about crackdown in Tiananmen Square. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our speaker this morning, Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz.
Thanks for the howling welcome. Um, Thanks, Dr. Birai. And thanks, Manila Times and Manila Times College, for organizing this forum and for inviting me to speak. Wow, it's amazing to be able to reach so many of you, current and aspiring journalists all over the country. I've lived and worked in China for nearly 50 years, but I am a full-fledged passport-carrying Filipino. In fact, I honed my fundamentals in journalism, especially critical thinking, in Philippine schools. I did that when I was an editor of our high school newspaper, The Republic, of the Marcelo H. Del Pilar High School, a public school in Malolos, Bulacan. I continued to do that as a reporter and later editor-in-chief of the college paper Ang Malaya, of then called Philippine College of Commerce, now called the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, my alma mater. Later, when I ended up living and working in China, I worked as Time Magazine's reporter for 16 years, the last 10 as the Beijing bureau chief. I did that from the 1980s through the year 2000. I was away from China for 1 year when I was chosen as the Edward Murrow Press Fellow, one slot per year in New York, which is a think tank called the Council on Foreign Relations. And I was the first non-American to get that prestigious award. Later, after a year, I was offered a job by CNN to move back to China as Beijing correspondent and bureau chief. And I did that for 14 years until the year 2015 when I retired. So I retired as a journalist 5 years ago, and I now teach a media course at the School of Journalism and Communication of Peking University. I've been doing that for the past 4 years, and I will continue to do that in spite of the pandemic. Now, in the 30 plus years that I've worked as a foreign correspondent, I've covered a range of stories, big and small. I did breaking news and I did features as well. I mostly covered the China beat, but I also did reporting for North Korea, South Korea, Mongolia, and Hong Kong. Now, working as a foreign correspondent had, of course, been exciting and exhilarating and yes, quite glamorous. So you get to go to far-flung, exotic places and sometimes verboten destinations like Tibet and Pyongyang. You get a ringside seat to landmark even historic events like the Tiananmen protests in 1989, the Hong Kong handover in 1997, and then the 2008 Olympics. But it's also been exhausting and sometimes risky and dangerous. Still, I look back to my time as a journalist with much pride and nostalgia. Now, we now live in a dangerous time. A deadly pandemic is spreading across the globe. The COVID-19 virus has infected some 40 million people worldwide and has killed over 1 million worldwide. So the pandemic is shutting down industries, businesses. It's shaking down stock markets, slowing down global economic growth. We see out in the streets, shops, factories, banks, and airlines, they face bankruptcy, if not closure. Millions are losing jobs. So the way we live, the way we used to live, our daily lives, that's being changed abruptly and perhaps permanently. So it's the worst time to be a journalist. Why do I say that? Because here in the Philippines, as well as in the US, Brazil, India, Italy, Spain, in all those places badly hit by the pandemic, working as a journalist means you work in the front line, and that may put you in harm's way. quite literally. I know that. I know what it's like because I covered the SARS epidemic in China in 2003. And I remember how shocked and confused we were in the first several weeks of the outbreak because no one knew what was going on. We knew little about this invisible virus, this deadly virus. And worse, some officials were trying to cover up this spreading pandemic. So naturally, I worried about the safety, my safety, the safety of my wife and two children. In fact, we had a family meeting, and I proposed that they evacuate to Manila for safety. But I was outvoted. They all voted to stay with me. But work required that I reported in the front line, and that took me to hospital wards and lockdown rural communities. That took me to Foshan in Guangdong province, which was the petri dish of the SARS virus, the epicenter of that deadly epidemic. So it was a difficult and dangerous assignment. Now this time, we, the journalists, are faced with the COVID-19 pandemic. We are now fighting a war against an invisible and deadly enemy. Now this is a massive story that we have not seen in a long, long time. It's a huge story, and that's why I say it is also the best time to be a journalist. It's a good opportunity to show why the media is so important in our lives, wherever we may be. And as we battle this coronavirus, media reporters are now playing an important role in informing the public and in holding public officials accountable. This, in my presentation, I offer this general view of journalists' distinct role in times of pandemic and disaster, and the importance of critical thinking, both on the part of the journalists as well as on the part of our audiences, in the way we deliver the news and in the way the news and information is consumed. We'll talk about the importance of prompt, truthful reporting, and I'll tell you about what we journalists do to cover breaking news. Now, there has been various ways to describe what journalists do, right? Our role as journalists. So journalists are storytellers. We tell stories that happened, who, what, where, when, why. We're also recorders of history. We are supposed to write the first draft of history. We journalists are whistleblowers. We expose wrongdoings like crimes, corruption, cover-ups, and then we alert the public to these problems so there'll be prompt solutions. More importantly, we journalists, we comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. What does that mean? We comfort the poor, the marginalized, the underdogs, the victims of wrongdoings. And on the other hand, we also make criminals and wrongdoers uncomfortable. We make them tremble in fear by naming and shaming them or by helping bring them to justice, to jail. Now, the pandemic is causing fear at home and across the globe. Millions of people are in lockdown, travel is restricted, and markets are in turmoil. So in this uneasy time, we have witnessed the best of the media. Journalists have helped inform the public promptly, extensively. We are critical players in this crisis management and in crisis communications. Media groups, for example, including the Manila Times, you use various platforms to carry regular press briefings, sometimes live or live streaming. We attend or organize press conferences to provide updates and about the epidemic, and we give officials and medical experts opportunities to answer our questions, and then for them to send out their message to the public. Now, these press briefings help inform the public and reassure them that the authorities are doing what needs to be done and that this crisis will come to pass. Now, that is what we call crisis communications. Now, journalists also we help alert the public, inform them on how the virus spreads and how to avoid it. We turn to science and rely on the medical experts for their advice to give tips on how we, the public, can protect ourselves. Now, just as important, we give voice to whistleblowers anywhere they may be. So we journalists around the world are contributing many things, including other good work. For example, we produce heartwarming stories of patients suffering and dying, heartrending stories, I'm sorry. We give voice to people who have lost jobs and livelihood. We do inspiring stories of medical workers who are risking their lives in the front line. And we do not just focus on the negative news, right? Media channels, we air uplifting video clips, for example, of resilient people who are coping with the pandemic. We produce heartwarming stories of ordinary people showing extraordinary human kindness, helping each other. We show companies, corporations, big and small, making donations toward the effort to curb the spread of pandemic. So all these reports, they help boost public cooperation and confidence. Similarly, brave and intrepid journalists, they dig deep in conducting investigative reports like exposés of wrongdoings or systemic failures or just sheer government inaction. For example, bad deeds that endanger the public. Some stories, for example, show shortage of medical equipment or PPEs in some hospitals, exposing medical workers to infection and death. Some reporters, they do fact-checking, like short television segments that distinguish myths from facts. Journalists, we say journalists are people's advocate, and that's a nice sounding title, but with that comes responsibility. The responsibility to be truthful, fair, and balanced. Now, that's not easy because we journalists face censorship. We face harassment, public criticism, or even death threats, simply because we are doing our job. Now, that is also getting more and more difficult with the introduction of new technology, new innovations that is changing the way journalism is done and the way news is disseminated and consumed. Now, thanks to the internet and smartphones, and then coming soon, 5G, journalists can now deliver news quickly and cheaply on Facebook, Twitter, WeChat, TikTok, YouTube, and many other platforms. But the use of these tools and platforms are not exclusive to journalists anymore. They're now, available to everyone. So everyone can now be a journalist. Virtually all of us, you and me, we can be reporters and news gatherers. It's no longer remarkable for you and me to take pictures and video using a smartphone and then beam them across the world instantly and share them with your friends and with the public. Anyone can cheaply open an account, build a website, start a blog or a vlog or a podcast. Successful ones, they gather millions of followers, thousands of followers, the so-called influencers, and some even make money out of that. And many such amateur video clips have turned viral, and sometimes for good, sometimes for ill. Even the mainstream media nowadays, they like to pick up such raw amateur video because they have become popular and they can attract eyeballs. So surely the internet, the social media, and other technological innovations have delivered huge benefits to us and to the public, for the end users like you and me, and for the media practitioners like you and me. News and information can now be disseminated quickly, widely, and cheaply. And some of these apps have become useful in times of emergencies and disasters. For example, Facebook's locator feature, they are useful in accounting for people's whereabouts to tell their friends that they are safe when, say, terror attacks or disasters happen. And these new technology or new applications are helping break the government's monopoly on truth. They help challenge traditional narratives by offering diverse sources of information and points of view. They help curb disinformation, and they help curb propaganda. Now, this, of course, is prompting censorship and pushback. Aggrieved politicians, for example, they may complain that there's media bias. Some even threaten to file libel suits and other legal charges. They dismiss media reports. They dismiss us as fake news. They dismiss exposés as hit pieces. They demonize enterprising reporters as troublemakers. In any case, when censorship is breached, officials are compelled to be on their toes, to behave, and to live up to their responsibilities, unless they get exposed by the media and they get into further big trouble. Now, in some cases, some countries, officials were sacked for their dereliction of duties. So clearly, new media benefit the public. Many news providers, the mainstream media, the bloggers, your friends in the social media, they play a positive role in informing us. However, they also bring along bad influences, like the virus of the fake news. Some influencers in the social media may have hidden agenda or an axe to grind. Some may have a bias or a preconceived point of view, and others may be simply peddling a hoax, sham products. And that's why we must beware of fake news, and that's why we need critical thinking. Of course, we stand for freedom of speech, freedom of information. They are hugely important, and we must fight for them. And we in the Philippines must consider ourselves fortunate that, relatively speaking, we enjoy those freedoms. They are hugely important. They must be protected. But there is a difference between a whistleblower, an upright newspaper person who do exposés, who expose problems and wrongdoings. There's a difference between that and some criminal who intentionally spread false information or conspiracy theories. This is similar to that person who maliciously shout fire inside a movie house, intentionally causing panic and harm. So there's a fundamental difference between a whistleblower and some crook who is peddling propaganda. The problem is sometimes, some studies say, false news spreads faster than truth, especially online. An MIT study, for instance, looked at a decade-long compilation of tweets, and they determined that truth spread slower than false news. The study found that fake news spread faster, deeper, and wider than truth. Now, there's still little empirical data to explain why falsehood spreads faster than truth. But in the meantime, it seems that people do spread false news faster than truth because, well, it's just human nature. Now, over the years, we've seen a decline of the traditional media, right, which used to provide news that people can trust. Some of them have closed down, some were bought and merged, some were swallowed up by big conglomerates. Others have cut back on their staff due to declining revenues and profit. The result, nowadays, there is utter lack of rigorous fact checking, especially on the social media. There's utter lack of fact checking and there's utter lack of critical thinking. We, the consumers, are exposed to daily to a mix of news and gossips and rumors and opinions, all from a variety of sources. Worse, we sometimes get them only in small doses from our limited social media circles. Some of us blindly believe in everything, anything they find in the social media. If it's on the internet, they say, they believe it must be true. Sorry, but please don't believe that. Do not even think that it must be true simply because it's on the internet. Far from it. Now, there are many examples of fake news on the social media, and there are many wild rumors, conspiracy theories, and you can find a long list of them in various apps like Snopes or factcheck.org, Truth or Fiction, and about.com. The internet is indeed being used for evil purposes. Criminals all over the world, they use the internet for the various platforms on the internet to say launder money or push illegal gambling or prostitution and other crimes. Even the ISIS group, some terror groups, they're said to have used the internet to communicate and coordinate their activities or spread lies and propaganda. So all this requires a smart, discriminating readers and viewers. As much as we seek credible and fearless journalists, we must have a woke audiences. That's why we advise, let's seek a healthy, balanced news diet, meaning a wide range of credible news and information, because it's particularly worrisome that some social media platforms like Tencent and Facebook, they're now acting like editorial watchdogs instead of being mere neutral media platforms, which they claim they are. So they're now deciding for us what we can read and what we cannot read. Now that prompts many questions. Recent changes in the media landscape have also distorted the media's motives and role. What do I mean? Now, some digital media organizations, for example, are now putting more importance on the number of clicks on their stories rather than on the accuracy and quality of their stories. They are more focused now on driving up page view traffic and advertising revenues. This has given way to what we call clickbaits, right? It's an editorial trick to write sensational or intriguing headlines that are meant to attract eyeballs, your eyeball, my eyeball, to make you and me click on their stories. Clickbaits are now common because advertising is linked directly to the quantifiable number of clicks and page views that stories attract. Now, some media groups, reporters and editors are paid based on page view traffic that their stories drive, not based on the quality of their reporting. Now, that is really sad. It is therefore important that we as journalists and news consumers maintain a balanced and healthy news diet. What does that mean? Just as we aim to have a balanced daily diet of food, like a good mix of protein, carbohydrates, vegetables, fat, for example. Now, we should also seek a good mix of information from diverse and credible sources. That's what we call news diet. And that's why we are advocating a so-called news literacy. so we can all become smart consumers of news. How does that work? So we need a mix of politics, economics, business, sports, entertainment, or perhaps a mix of international, regional, and local news in our diet. We need a mix of straight hard news plus opinion and analysis. You can make your own menu, of course, but the end goal is the same, to feed ourselves daily with a balanced mix of news and information, of views and analysis. And what if we don't do that? Well, we get locked down, we get quarantined in what is called the echo chambers. And what happens when we rely on just one source, when we listen only to friends who share our views, but to no one else? This leads to a clustering of like minded individuals who think and speak the same way, and sooner or later, they form what we call echo chambers. In it, they only hear their own voice bouncing round and round, and because they only hear their own voice, then they start to believe that they must be correct, they must be true. So let us beware. Let's open our eyes and ears, our minds, to other points of view, even if we disagree with them. We live in a world where information is plentiful and understanding just too little. It's one journalist's role to fill that void. We must rely on journalists not just to recite facts, but to help us make sense of our times. Let us turn to credible media sources which have no agenda except to eliminate the news and truthfully and fearlessly tell us. The coronavirus is deadly. SARS killed thousands of people 17 years ago. The COVID 19 virus is killing tens of thousands now. But fake news, rumors, conspiracy theories, disinformation, misinformation, they can kill too. They could cause fear, and fear could trigger public panic and hysteria, which could then lead to social and economic disruption, even deaths. So fear, disinformation, misinformation could be as deadly as the COVID virus itself. And that's why we need good journalism. That's why we need critical thinking. That's why we need to support credible media groups. That's why we have to pay for some of the journalism that we consume. And that's why we need top-rate journalism courses in schools. Finally, that's why we give credit to journalists who cover the news tenaciously and fearlessly, because they are our frontline heroes too. Thank you very much. Let me stop there. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Jaime Flor Cruz. Our first reactor is the current acting editor-in-chief and associate editor for print of the Benildian Press Corps of the official student publication of De La Salle College of St. Benilde. Starting as a literary writer and a Filipino editor, her experience in journalism grew from writing literary pieces to covering events. Aside from being a campus journalist, she aims to excel in her chosen career as a real estate professional in the future. Driven by her mission to promote social awareness and leadership, we have Beatriz Quirante. Yes,
Thank you.
Beatriz, good morning.
Thank you, Pa. Thank you for the introduction. So, firstly, I agree with what Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz said about journalists being considered as frontliners, especially during this pandemic, since we as well carry a huge responsibility of bringing facts to people, recording history, and exposing criminals or wrongdoers. This is why critical thinking is also crucial in journalism. I think to further realize the value of critical thinking, let's first look at it from another perspective. What if journalism doesn't involve critical thinking? So imagine how chaotic that would be. So fake news will be rampant, people would be sharing distorted information to one another, and the worst part would be having each one of us clueless on who to trust and what is our reality. So with this, there may be a widespread use of fake news and misinformation. People may start arguing simply based on gossip, presenting arguments with invalid points, and which in turn promotes ignorance in society. So without critical thinking in journalism, severe cases of crime, violence, corruption, and discrimination, all of which are alarming issues, may not be given ample evidences and data. The data which is necessary for those who firmly fight for an advocacy, discern their political stance, want to remain informed of our realities, or seek justice from these issues. Moreover, if journalism doesn't involve critical thinking, our very own lives may be at stake. In a pandemic, misinformation on correct health protocols and guidelines may double the COVID-19 cases, increase the number of deaths, or jeopardize the safety of our families. So yes, lives are at stake. This may seem to be exaggerated, but it's true. Information drives our beliefs and our stand, where it consequently influences our actions. And what we do is based on what we believe in. And what we believe in are those we perceive as facts from sources we trust. So this is where critical thinking is vital in journalism, where the dissemination of news happens on issues we must know of. So focusing on campus journalism, during these trying times, we student journalists aim to inform our readers, mostly the youth, of current and relevant events happening in our society, more so on our school campus. In doing so, we gather information through interviews and data from credible sources. Currently, these are released through social media where it tends to subdue fake news. Like what Mr. Florcruz said earlier, in today's generation, there is a lack of rigorous fact checking. Hence, further calls the relevance of critical thinking, not only for journalists, but for everyone. So as the youth of today are driven to raise their voices regarding what they believe in, the content, provided by journalists are crucial. Hence, gathered information must always be analyzed well and remain unbiased once published and reported. If it doesn't uphold these characteristics, then it's never near journalism. The goal of journalism has always been to inform the truth, and for my organization, the Biniljan Press Corps, it is to empower the truth and be the voice of the voiceless. So thank you, and that's my take on critical thinking in the pursuit of journalism in critical times.
All right. All right. Thank you for that one, Beatrice. And our next reactor is a campus journalist for 7 years, sports writer, and third year BS biology major in plant biology of Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. And he is also the acting associate editor for Silahi's publication. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have John Jason Dael Delon. Hi, John.
Hi, sir. Thank you for that introduction. So, first of all, I would like to greet everyone good morning. And I would like to express my gratitude to the Manila Times for giving me this opportunity to be one of the reactor in this forum. So, it is an honor. It is an honor for me to be present in this talk of Sir Jaime Flor Cruz today to earn a worth of years or even a decade experience learning. And here's my takeaway. In the call of journalism, we should pursue truth at all costs. Therefore, critical thinking is significant for us journalists or even to the readers to be able to investigate information, identify facts from opinion, and make objective judgments. During critical times such as this pandemic, it is an extra challenge for us to look for credible information since movements are limited. But also, at this very critical time, we need to be more effective in delivering accurate information and uplifting stories. It is our responsibility to uphold unbiased and unwavering journalism. Another challenge that have already existed even before this pandemic, but becoming more rampant today, is the emergence of fake news. Fake news is considered as our mortal enemy. This is a big challenge for us journalists because sometimes it is our articles and news that are being labeled fake, since sometimes fake news are more convincing or easy to believe, where in fact, it is the worst lie. It is the integrity of a publication or the journalist that is very important for it is how we earn the trust of people to believe in our capacity to enlighten them with truth. Thus, as a journalist, we always need to be careful and critical in the information we release to the public since the consequence of one mistake is unimaginable. We should always be reminded that truth can't be manipulated. We, Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology Silay's publication as an integrated platform committed for transparency of authentic information through active and responsible journalism, believe that we should always be objective and logical in pursuit of journalism amid critical times. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that one, John. Our next reactor is currently the associate editor of the Varsitarian, the official student publication of University of Santo Tomas, where she handles all online and external affairs. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in journalism last year and is in her second year pursuing her master's degree in journalism at UST. Before her editorial stint at the Varsitarian, she was a circle writer where she covered the lifestyle and arts beat and was the anchor on all of publications' extra editorial activities for a year. During her college year, she was a finalist for Asian Journalism Research Conference in 2019. She was part of the team who won Best National News Story at the second Manila Times Campus Press Awards. She was a student disc jockey for FM radio station Melo 94.7 from 2018 to 2019. She was also a Metro Patrol News volunteer for the AM radio station DWIZ from 2017 to 2019. She served as an auditor at the UST Journalism Society in 2017. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Katrina Gonzalez. Hi, Kat.
Hello, sir. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Manila Times, for inviting me. Thank you, Mr. Flor Cruz, for a very fruitful and informative talk. And I agree with Mr. Flor Cruz that being a journalist in this critical time is both the worst time, but it's also the best time of being a journalist because it's considered both as an honor and a responsibility. We are not just doing an occupation or enhancing a skill or a hobby. It's about letting the truth unfold, especially at a time where the truth gets easily blurred out. During this pandemic, there are two problems that we face: the virus and fake news. It's important to have critical thinking in covering stories, but also during this pandemic, and actually, even if there's no pandemic, we should also engage in critical discourse. It's not enough that you are aware of what's happening anymore. So you have to be proactive, say your opinion, engage your thoughts with people around you because it's like a vice versa process. They can learn something from you and you can also learn something from them because with a huge field such as social media and with campus journalists with their publications as their canvas, you're basically being given the tools for it already. So all you have to do is engage it and execute it in the best possible way. Journalists are also called storytellers, as what Mr. Forcus said. And as storytellers, we have to put out stories that are not just reiterating what happened, but provide readers with more of an objective context of the story and leave them just not informed, but push them to think for themselves and to act on it. At a time now where we're also anxious about the virus, the numbers are surging, the status of developing a vaccine and the like, all the more now do we need journalists to give us this information which are verified and true. A lot of times the press has tried to be silenced, and but the press will always find a way to expose the truth no matter what, and to keep this freedom that we have alive. And I think that's one of the qualities that I admire about journalists, and I think that this characteristic is also very much associated with us Filipinos, is that we're quite resilient, and when we have a goal we are determined, and they never give up no matter what. And how many hurdles that they face. The same goes with journalists. They don't turn their back on the voiceless and the truth. And again, with social media, there is also an avenue for fake news to thrive. And being a journalist, you have the power to debunk these attacks. Like what Sir Flor Cruz said about a study that fake news spreads faster than the truth, especially in social media. People who aren't from the Philippines, they get their news from the internet, from social media. And some of them happen to believe fake news because they don't have enough knowledge of the country to know if what they're reading is true or not. And so that's the journalist's job to shape this reality, to share this reality that are being molded by journalists, which are accurate and true. And of course, we are experiencing online journalism and citizen journalism in this period of technological advancement. And of course, this can evolve how we produce news packages and also engage our readers to say their opinion and to actually help journalists as well to make their stories more in depth. And also, this is also a chance for journalists to verify these facts and to verify this information from citizens that they get their information to online. So being a journalist or a campus journalist, more so in a crucial time like this, we are able to show the public that the youth can also serve as a voice to the voiceless, and show that we too ourselves have the knowledge and the courage to put ourselves out there and make them see that we aren't ignorant of these issues happening around us. Rather, we know it, and we want to use our voice to represent the youth, because we do deserve that space in the national arena to say our opinions. And for to see the youth being informed and vocal in national and international issues, we can produce more critical journalists in the future. And it starts with campus journalists who are surely making a mark in these critical times. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you for that one. Now we proceed to our fourth reactor. He is a fourth year Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English student of University of Southern Mindanao main campus. He is formerly the Associate Literary Editor of the Mindanao Tech, the official student publication of USM Kabakan for 65 years. Inspired by Jody Picoult, his favorite author, he dreams to write and publish his own novel in the future. The current editor-in-chief of the Mindanao Tech and one of the reactors today from Mindanao, please welcome Loine Sumalino. Loine?
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for the introduction. Good morning, Sir Jaime Flor Cruz and Sir Dante Klink Ang II. Good morning. And I am very much honored to be invited as one of the reactors of this Campus Journalism Congress. And my team is also watching our live now here in Mindanao. And amidst the pandemic that we are facing now, we were able to join this virtual forum that gave us another insights in pursuing our passion as student journalists and journalists in the future. And we really all find it really difficult to start this academic year in our publication, since we cannot do the face-to-face press work, because we have press works in our publication every week. But with the online resource that we have, we were able, we were able to do it, and our work and duties shouldn't stop. um, our responsibilities as campus journalists are very much needed in these times, and so we should do better and never neglect joining confabs like these. It is also thrilling to know about how you started as journalist when you were just a student from Sir Clink's experience earlier and also from Sir Jaime Flor Cruz said. And since the social media now is much available for everyone, it is very important that we do fact checking and seek healthy and balanced news diet, as what Sir Jaime Flor Cruz highlighted earlier. In Mindanao Tech, we are considered to be the vanguards of students' rights. So we practice critical thinking at all times in every writing we do, and we always do fact checking to that. And it is a requirement for all of us to check of diverse resources or sources of our information, so that we will not only hear our own voice in all our articles, and so that we will be credible for everyone to read. And also we should also produce heartwarming stories. I also agree that we don't just check for our page views and people reach. Also, we make sure that we have fair and truthful articles for publication. And what inspired me most is when Sir Jaime Flor Cruz said that one of our roles is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. So it is very important that we are caring, that we care for those who are afflicted, and we make sure that the criminals and the people who are reliable, accountable for the wrongdoings should be exposed. And there, our responsibilities is huge, and we should always practice balanced, fair, and truthful articles for publication. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for that, Loine. And now we proceed to our last reactor. So our last reactor is the co-editor of Manila Times Campus Press. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is Mr. Arlo Custodio. Hi, Sir Arlo.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz, for those insights. We have learned a lot. Okay, for the students right now, you are very lucky because during our time, we didn't have that chance. And just based on experience, when I was a student, I was the editor-in-chief of our college publication, which happened to be MSU IIT. So, hi, John. And that's the only credential I had to pursue a career in journalism because I took up engineering technology. But because of that, it brought me places. First, I covered entertainment, lifestyle, and I'm so glad that on my fourth year here at the Manila Times, the Sir Klink assigned me to be the co-editor of Campus Press, and I like interacting with the youth. Kumbaga, this is my passion. I want to share more to the youth because, totoo naman yung sinabi ni Rizal that the youth is the hope of tomorrow. And it's very important also that in your college years, that's where you develop critical thinking. If you are honed, if you are well developed for critical thinking, you will bring that to your career, whatever it is. It may be journalism. In the case of Bea, she might even bring that to real estate because she said that that's what she wanted to pursue. Okay, based on my experience, again, the difference between a journalist and a writer is that journalists probe. You ask why, how, who, what. For writers, you can just think of something, you write it, and then you can even turn into a PR agent. Because if you don't probe and you just write or broadcast whatever the subject tells you, then that is not journalism at all. That's why for the past year, I've been wondering why there are so many journalists never ask questions how the subject got that information, how he arrived with that data. So right now, since I'm now with the Campus Press section, I just want to encourage everyone to contribute to this section along with Miss Ash Medina, who is my co-editor. So we encourage you to email or send your contributions to campuspress@manilatimes.net. This is open to everyone. Okay, so the articles that cannot be accommodated in print and in digital section, we open also for the online edition of the Campus Press. So we don't limit as long as we meet the deadline. So we have something like Tuesday is the deadline so that we can process it by Wednesday and it comes out every Thursday. So everyone, all the students, the teachers, the mentors who are watching us right now, encourage your students. We encourage you to contribute to the Campus Press section of the Manila Times. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity, Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz. Of course, we know your history. You brought honor to the Philippines in China that may have bridged the relations between China and the Philippines. Okay, so thank you also, Dr. Viray, and thank you for the group that organized this, our COO, Ms. Blanca Mercado, Shane, si Roda, and of course our President and CEO, Sir Klink. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that one. And I know this is the moment you've all been waiting for. We will now proceed to our open forum or question and answers. We will be asking questions coming from you guys who are watching right now. You may send your questions via chat and comment in our live feed. So while we are waiting for your questions, I would like to acknowledge again our participating schools. So once again, Baliwag University, Centro Escolar University Makati, De La Salle College of St. Benilde, De La Salle University Laguna Campus, Emilio Aguinaldo College Manila, Emilio Aguinaldo College Cavite, FEU Cavite, Infant Jesus Academy, Lyceum of the Philippines University Manila, Lida National High School, Makati Hope Christian School, Marikina Polytechnic College, Manueli School, Pasig Catholic College, Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary, Philippine High School, Philippine Science High School Main Campus, Philippine Science High School Calabarzon, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, San Beda University Rizal Campus, St. Michael's College of Laguna, STI College, St. Dominic College of Asia, St. Edward School, Imos and Faith Campus, Treston International College, the Manila Times College, the Manila Times College Subic, the University of Rizal System Antipolo Campus, Universidad de Manila, University of Caloocan City, University of Santo Tomas, University of Southern Mindanao, University of Eastern Philippines, University of San Agustin, and University of Asia and the Pacific. So thank you for joining us today. You may now send your question. Sir Jaime, we have a question here from Miss Miles De Leon. Good morning, everyone. May I just ask, what are the reasons why fake news travel faster than the truth? And why do you, and what do you mean by it is our human nature that allows fake news to travel faster?
Again, as I said, there's still a lack of empirical data, at least based on that MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology research. It was based on the tweets that they collected and studied over a period of 10 years. So I suspect that the easy answer or speculative answer is that it's just human nature that we tend to pick up and spread fake news. Maybe because it's juicy, it's shocking, it's unbelievable, and whereas if it's the truth, we probably tend to say, well, of course it is. So we just assume it is the truth, and therefore there is no compelling need to spread it, and that's just human nature, right? That's what I meant by saying, by theorizing that it's simply human nature that we tend to believe in fake news right away, and it spreads much faster than the truth. And that is why it's important that we are also as quick in debunking, as Kat said, in debunking fake news, because fake news travels much faster.
Thank you,
I don't know.
Mr.
Maybe others have other theories or explanation.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a pretty good explanation, Mr. Flor Cruz. Thank you for that. And as Dr. Viray said, we want to encourage those watching us on our website, the Manila Times website, on our social media platforms to ask questions. We just request that you identify your school affiliation. And of course, those reactors who are with us this morning, you are also welcome to ask questions. Just raise your hand, literally, or push the icon for raise your hands. But as you are formulating those, let me pose a few. You said earlier that these are times when everyone can be a journalist. But if anyone can be a journalist, what is your outlook on those studying journalism today? What is their future like? Is there a future for a professional journalist?
I think there is, because even though everyone can now be virtually a journalist, right? Because in the sense that anyone can pick up something and spread it on the internet quickly, cheaply. But what will distinguish us journalists from them who have not been trained and who will just mechanically do that is precisely critical thinking. I think that's what you pay for in enrolling in courses on journalism. It's to acquire those distinctive skills that not everyone will necessarily possess. That means logical thinking, critical thinking, and then the skills, the fundamental skills of writing. I think that will distinguish us, you and me, from the everyone else can do a journalist crowd. In the end, it will it will be equal to credibility, consistency in being truthful and being interesting. So not everyone can be interesting, and that requires skills. That requires skills in presentation, in writing. That requires skills in conceptualizing the stories that we want to report on. Again, not everyone can have that skill, and it takes training, it takes mentorship, it takes practice, and I think that's where the value added of journalism courses, of journalism schools, of training, long and short, that will distinguish us from the rest of the pack.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to encourage our reactors to ask questions, but I'll go to you next. But maybe one more because I can't resist. You have the wisdom of years, no? Having worked for Newsweek and for CNN, but if you could talk to your past self when you were back in PUP as a student journalist, what would you say to your old self, knowing what you know now, about how to prepare for a career in media, what would some of those messages be?
Yeah. Well, many things. Well, the first thing is to be lucky, as I was. I was in the right place at the right time. I had good breaks. I had good mentors. Um, so I think fundamentally, it's still, as what we've done in high school journalism and college journalism, it's honing our writing skills. I think it's a long process. It's a lifetime process. Um, so revise, rewrite. Um, I also would encourage people to, show your stuff to your peers, your colleagues, and get feedback from them. That's the way to improve. Um, you're only as good as your last piece of reporting or last story. So you have to improve repeatedly. So that requires humility. That requires patience and perseverance. And then the other important part is to think, to open our minds even wider, right? When we were in high school doing journalism, or college even doing journalism, we had our minds and our views still focused on the Philippines, right? Which is, of course, natural. But I learned that there is a bigger world out there. You must have seen this caricature or cartoon of the frog under the well, right? The frog under the well. If you asked him how big is the sky, he would only describe the mouth of the well, because that's the only sky he sees. But in fact, if he jumps out of the well, he sees a much bigger. I feel like we, in campus journalism, we are still that frog inside the well, and we've got to jump out of that well and see this bigger sky out there. Not necessarily to report about everything, but just be aware that we live. If we only focus in our immediate environment, we are like that frog under the well. So we need to broaden our perspective, our knowledge, because as a journalist, you'll never know what topic will fall on your lap and write about, right? And so we just have to be journalists. In short, we have to build on our local knowledge and acquire a global view, or at least a regional view. And I know that's difficult, but it's never too early for our students to think that way. And fundamentally, everything is fundamentally the same. Language skills, writing skills, critical thinking. Those are necessary fundamentals. Then the rest, you just need to be a little lucky and persistent and be in the right place at the right time. But never, ever lose confidence in yourself. Me, for example, I studied in public schools. I worked I honed my journalism skills working for the newspapers of public high school and PUP. I never took any formal training as a journalist. I didn't go to a journalism school. I did not have an Ivy League degree, and I competed with a lot of young Americans and foreigners who had better sounding qualifications, right? So nothing is impossible, but again, you have to be ready when the opportunity comes knocking at your door, and because if not, the opportunity comes in and you lose the opportunity. So it's never too early. I hope our young aspiring journalists uh, know what needs to be done, but also to have the patience and perseverance and believe in yourself.
Great. Dr. Viray, I noticed that there are some questions coming in. Would you care to read some of those questions from our viewers?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that one, sir. We have a question from Miss Jana Victoria Samson. Good morning po to all. You said earlier about caring for the afflicted, being the truth for the public. You said earlier about caring for the afflicted, being the truth for the public. However, many schools in classes teach students that when presenting and making the news, emotions shouldn't be shown physically and verbally. Based on this, what do you think is a reliable and balanced amount of presenting facts and caring with emotions?
So maybe
I
should you
think
take on a stoic persona? Should you take on a stoic persona when you are presenting the news to be to put your emotions aside and just read it, just bare facts.
I didn't quite get was that to me?
Yes, yes, that's for you, Mr. Flor
Okay.
Cruz.
No, can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Sir, you
The
said you said
Yeah.
earlier about caring for the afflicted. So being
Yes.
true to the and being the truth for the public. Many schools are teaching students that when presenting and making news, emotions shouldn't be shown physically and verbally. Based on this, sir, what do you think
Mm,
is a reliable and balanced amount of presenting facts and caring with emotions?
I see. No, that's a good question. And in fact, when I was working as a journalist for CNN, in fact, we were told to yes to be stoic about it, um, to not to let our personal or individual emotion or even opinion to get into our stories. In fact, we were discouraged from using I when doing a story. Uh, but that has since changed. I'm sure you will notice in many reports, foreign as well as local, reporting that journalists are now uh, being allowed or even encouraged to inject, to emote, to inject their own personal stories and feelings. Why? Because I think it was determined that it makes the stories more powerful and effective uh, by evoking emotions. Um, I I am agnostic about it. I am a little reluctant to do that myself. Again, maybe because of my old training. Um, I've always thought that we can deliver the news or even opinion in a emotionless or with little emotion. But then again, as the questionnaire asked, how do you link that with the need to comfort the afflicted? Um, I believe it doesn't have to be literally, um, and that such comforting can be done in a calm but genuine way. And I think that is probably the crucial word, genuine. Um, if you emote too much, if you put in too much emotion into your story, into your written or TV story, don't you risk actually looking fake? Um, in other words, that your emotion may come through as overreacting or overacting, and that it doesn't come through as genuine. So in the end, I think that's how you will decide how much emotion or personal opinion you can put in, while at the same time trying to help, trying to comfort the afflicted, or trying to afflict the comfortable, the erring officials, for example. It's a balance, but again, it's a matter of style. It's a personal style, and the key is how credible that style will come through to the audience. How believable you will be in your style of delivering the story.
Thank you, Mr. Flor Cruz. There's a question here from Vince Jandre Bisa from St. Michael College of Laguna. And the question is, as telling truth has challenged media nowadays, the question is, can you still trust Philippine media? What is your take on that? I suppose this is something that we've been hearing also from U.S. media, especially during this election period. But does the same apply to Philippine media? What do you think?
It's hard to generalize, and we shouldn't, right? I know, for example, President Trump dismisses the media as fake news. In the Philippines as well, there are many critics, detractors of the media, and sometimes for good reasons. The media is not perfect. We make mistakes. Our ranks is not all. It's not always clean. The Philippines, I know, is known is sometimes dismissed as a corrupt media. We speak of ACDC, corruptible, bribable, and it's unfortunate, but it's probably partly true. But again, I wouldn't generalize. I still think that our media is doing well. It's robust. It's and I say that in comparison to the media, say in North Korea or even China, where you have the problem of state media controlled, censored sometimes. So in that sense, I think we should be lucky and proud that we in the media are allowed so much space in our reporting. But the challenge is how to take up the responsibility of being truthful and fair and balanced. And I am aware of the problems, but I also wouldn't dismiss our media as fake news. I think I have high respect for a lot of our media practitioners in the Philippines. I think they're doing well. They're doing their best, but they also are playing the role that the media should play. It's true in many other countries, many other news beats. The criticisms that we could hurl on the local media, we can do the same even in the U.S. Right? So I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back. And as well, we should also give ourselves the space that the media will need. I think we're doing more good than bad, all things considered.
Right.
And I think the public should appreciate that.
Well, let's turn the tables around. I mean, I want to go to our reactors. Since you don't have questions, I have questions for you, and maybe we can have Mr. Flor Cruz react. Right? What are your biggest concerns about journalism or going into the journalism profession at this stage in your studies? What are some of those biggest, maybe top one or top two concerns? And then maybe let's have Mr. Flor Cruz react to those. Bea, since we started with you earlier, you want to start?
I think I could start naman po, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the biggest challenge for as a student journalist would be balancing your time for academics and as well as your organization or being a journalist, as well as being the first person in line to give the news to your audience, or in this case, the school campus. Third would be the prevalence of fake news. Like we must subdue that. We must prevent our audience on believing those fake news by providing our own quality content that provides factual information and disseminates the news properly. So in I think solving those challenges would require consistency from us student journalists. We must remain updated. We must also use critical thinking on finding credible sources, on looking for people to interview, those relevant people that we have to interview to get the information that we need for disseminating that information. When it comes to managing time with academics and being a student journalist, I think that requires discipline from oneself. Like what Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz said, also confidence. Like you have to be confident that you can balance everything being a student journalist. Like you have to be confident in writing your articles. You have to be confident in the sources you've gathered, the information you've found from your interviews or your credible sources, and just be confident with yourself as a student journalist. I think that's all for me, sir.
Okay, I'll go down the list, the reactors, and then I'll go back to Mr. Flor Cruz. What about you, John? What is your top concern about maybe going into journalism after you graduate?
Uh, for me, I've been a campus journalist for already 7 years, so I have quite an experience already in journalism. And for me, what's very hard in doing journalism is that you sh- you're always being challenged of the time because you need to in journalism you need to become your news or your articles need to be relevant or need to be timeless or you need to timely rather
Yeah.
timely and it is a great challenge for a journalist to think critically at abruptly at that moment on the news or like it's very hard to decide or to make an article na where you have only not enough or few informations regarding the issue and you need to do it you need to post it you need to publish it because it's what the public demands to inform them as soon as possible because that's what happened in our publication the students of our school or many of them are demanding us to make an editorial, for example, for this issue. And there are a lot of issues that are going on in our society, and we cannot we cannot simply just make an article because we need to take for consideration a lot of things. We need to think of how to make this article unbiased, how to make this article reliable, or because for me it is our credibility or integrity as a journalist that is very important. So one mistake, its consequence is unimaginable. So we need to be careful, and it is the great challenge for us is the demands that the readers or the audience for us or their expectations as what Mr. Florcross said, we are not perfect. We have a lot of imperfections. Sometimes we do mistakes. Uh, for me, one solution for it is to maximize your capacity, to do your best, to be a critical thinker, to develop yourself along the way. Do not be stagnant on the process na you are you're a journalist like this today and in the future you are still that the same version of journalists from today. You should learn from your experience. You should have this progress slowly. Even a small progress is still a progress. So for me, the best way to address that issue is to learn from your experience or uh, to be more dedicated in your field of journalism and don't be discouraged at these demands from the people because it is for your own good to develop yourself.
Okay. All right, Loine, you want to weigh in there? What about you? What are your topmost concerns?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. For me, actually, since this pandemic has started, we weren't able, since March, we weren't able to meet with our staff in our publication. So it has been really difficult for us to start this academic year with my team because we will not be allowed to meet. So one thing is that we need. There's a need for us to manage our time since all of our classes will happen online, and also these. Our publication or our duties as campus journalists of the Mindanao Tech will also be online. So we will need to attend our classes as well as attend our meetings for our publication. So that's one of our difficulties since this pandemic has started. Also, one thing is that we have different programs. I mean, we have different courses taking in our university, and I can say that all these programs are really difficult or are really demanding, but there are really students from the Mindanao Tech who are taking engineering, which is more demanding than BSE students like us, future teachers. So it's really difficult for them. It's really difficult for them to manage their time, especially when sending their artworks and also sending their articles. So that's two of the difficulties that we faced. But again, I guess it's time management, and um, there's a need for our minds to breathe sometimes so that we can do our tasks.
Okay. All right. Kat, last but not least, now your coursework must be heavier now that you're in grad school. You, what are your concerns?
Ever since we shifted to online learning at UST, I'm afraid our readings have doubled and also our presentations to our professors. But I think one of the challenges that we will face in going forward in pursuing our journalism field is I think it's from adjusting to that campus journalism environment to actually working for a national or local news organization because we're so adapted already to our campus journalism environment, the people that we talk to usually when we have news articles that we need to write about, the editorial process that we go through, and of course, there's also leeway for academic requirements. That's why we at the Varsitarian, we have this editorial process, like dates that we follow every time we publish our monthly paper. But since COVID-19 and the lockdown, we shifted to a digital first approach where we break news first, and then once we have a full layout, then we release it in our online website. But then we also paid attention to the concerns of the staff, how much they were having a challenge in connecting to the internet and in contacting their sources, because of course our sources are always at school, or we can just, it's gonna be a walking distance from the office to another office to actually get an interview.
Sure.
But now we have to email, we have to message them and wait for their reply. So I think it came to us adjusting also to the new normal. And when it comes to graduating or pursuing a field in journalism, I think that you will be more, I don't know, I'm having it as a challenge to be a bit culture shock to what the environment of working for a national or local news organization will be like, since when you're in a campus journalism, you are only assigned to one beat or to one section, then you can be regrouped to another one in the following
Mhm.
publication year. But of course, for working for the local news organizations, you have, especially if you're assigned to a general beat, then you have to be aware of things and also all of the issues all around 360. So I guess that's also a challenge to still have that critical reporting aspect in the
Mhm.
news that you produce, despite going there for the first time or for learning about this issue
Mhm.
for the first time as well.
Interesting. So, Mr. Flor Cruz, maybe your turn to react this time. If I could summarize, maybe their concerns are, balancing their responsibility, their academic responsibilities and their duties as campus journalists. Of course, those have been exacerbated, as many of them said, by this pandemic. Having now to limit their movements and cover from afar to ensure distancing, and also the dealing with the weight of responsibility, right, as John said, and then also the expectation that you must be truthful and not come across as fake. Your reactions, please.
Yeah, now that reminds me of my days, my time as a high school journalist, and in fact, I would like to also talk about adversity or failures. I remember when I was in high school, I had wanted to join our team to the NSSPC, this annual uh, uh, contest for high school journalists, and I remember not being selected as one in the team. I was very disappointed. Um, but again, I guess the lesson is you have to be strong and ready for failures, but never give up. We I think the key is also for campus journalists like you is to set your priorities and to, as we always say, follow your passion. Um, um, it doesn't matter if you fail here or there or you take a detour sometimes. Um, it's okay. Some people go straight on a success route, but others, in fact, maybe most of us, have to take some detours to get to our goals. Um, and I would also add that skills are fundamentally the same and transferable. If you are taking medicine or engineering now, it doesn't preclude you from becoming a journalist. I know very good journalists who were doctors or who were lawyers or who were on track to become one, but in the end they realized that they're good writers, they're good journalists, and so it's okay to, I think, to take a detour sometimes, and that because the skills are very transferable, convertible, as long as you have those basic skills of critical thinking, logical thinking, um, fine writing skills, um, you will be you will do well, no matter what career you take. Of course, if you think your final goal is to become a billionaire, then you are on the wrong track if you're in journalism, because most likely there are very few who actually become millionaires because they are journalists. Finally, I would also advise that you find good mentors. I was blessed with good mentors in high school, in college, and in my professional career. There, I call them my angels. So somewhere out there, you have mentors like Clink, who can help you, navigate through the problems that you're facing now, managing your time, setting your priorities. But a good mentor will help you navigate through your paths. But in the end, it's up to you. If you have the passion, if you have the patience, the perseverance, I'm sure you will all succeed as journalists.
Thank you, Mr. Flor. Arlo, you want to give some words of wisdom to these students? Unfortunately, I am not a mentor to Arlo. I'm more like a tormentor. uh, Always pressing him for stories, pressing him for stories and for submissions and whatnot. And so, Arlo, what's your take on their concerns and maybe some advice? You're on mute, Arlo. You need to unmute?
I have experienced what you are experiencing right now.
Not the torment.
Um, yeah, I was also mentored by good
Yep.
people. Even here, uh, I can actually say that since Tessa and I were together in Radio Veritas and she invited me to come to Manila Times, she has mentored me too sa lifestyle and entertainment. And thank you, sir, for assigning me to the campus press. I think this is my niche. I like it here. That's
Okay.
why I encourage you to contribute to the campus press section. So again, that's campus press at manilatimes.net.
Okay.
So all those listening now, all those watching, whether you are students in high school or college or graduate school, you can just send your contributions and based on newsworthiness, based on relevance, and also based on space. But we have the online edition that we can accommodate more.
Thank you. Mr. Florcus,
I
there's a.
can add,
Yeah,
if I
go
may
ahead.
add
Yes,
also
please.
the importance of a breakthrough.
Mm,
I recall how happy I was to see my first byline, so in Newsweek or Time.
mhm.
Very tiny name at the bottom of the article, but you know, talking of, I think Kat talked about confidence, building up. Or Bea talked about building up confidence. You just need a few of those breakthroughs to get your stories published, get your names tucked under at the bottom of the story. Um, that is very important. That was very important for me, um, building up confidence, and you build up more passion by just one or two breakthroughs. So it's good if that Manila Times, manilatimes.com offers platforms like that for you to contribute and just get published, um, and then build up on those. Again, it may take some time. Uh, it may take even more of your energy, and but in the end, one day you'll wake up and feel like I can do it, and you can do more, and you will succeed.
Mr. Florcus, let me ask you something from current events. There's been a lot of reports lately about red tagging, and I laugh because when I read your life story, I mean they don't really understand. I think what you went through, but the question I'm seeing from the feedback is it safe to be a journalist in the Philippines? And I'd like you to give your perspective and also maybe add some inputs on how much of it really is valid, and versus from what you also experience in more difficult places to practice journalism, China in particular, and even more so North Korea, right? Maybe if you can give some perspectives here.
Yeah, I think, well, when I was in college, yeah, we experienced red tagging, and I think for the good of the country, for the good of the society, we should avoid that. I think that is not the ultimate solution, because it such red tagging simply poison the whole atmosphere of open inquiry and debate, public discourse. Um, it's not a healthy way of solving our problems. Uh, I mean, I think there are fundamental problems that we face in the Philippines: poverty, joblessness, uh, official corruption, official abuse, and I think it's perfectly fine, and we should encourage young people in the colleges and high school to be socially aware, to be as we were many years ago, but also to speak up, um, and then not be afraid of speaking up. I think that I feel that by doing this, it injects a chill on journalism and on on public discourse if we encourage red tagging like that. So I hope that the government will be wiser in pursuing its agenda, uh, and that we and the young aspiring journalists will not be discouraged by such developments, because I think in the end what we need in solving our problems is an open discussion, open reporting, open discourse, even debates. We can all disagree on major issues, on any issues, but it's still a healthy way of finding solutions to our problems.
Now, what about the safety? I mean, the perspective safety of journalism here versus safety of journalism where in the other countries you practiced.
Well, I mean, it was bad enough in China with the censorship and all that, but at least in China, I never experienced physical or threats of death or imprisonment. Um, unlike what it was, say, in Russia 40 years ago or 50 years ago. North Korea is also very controlled journalism, um, and I wouldn't thrive in such uh, an atmosphere. Um, in the Philippines, we have a wild wild west kind of journalism, and that's good. But also, I think we need to think of how we can have a more responsible, uh, incorruptible journalism press corps. Uh, but all things considered, I think we're still okay
Mhm.
in the Philippines because in spite of recent developments, I think we still get to write and read stories that in China or in North Korea uh, they would be censored.
Yeah. Dr. Viray, we're running out of questions, but maybe Dr. Viray, we can take one more question from the audience. Can you read one other question from our viewers?
Yes, sir. Most of the questions here are asking for Sir Jaime's advice, but it was answered already. So we have viewers now who are not in the journalism field, and we've mentioned that they are the most gullible. They are the ones who are gullible in fake news. So any advice and tips to the general public on how they could avoid fake news? Kasi sir, based from experience, they always justify their stand, statements. Nabasa ko to nabasa kong ganyan without actually checking their sources. So sir, any tips po for the general public?
Well, I think the main suggestion would be just to keep an open mind, not to believe in whatever you see, especially if it's on the social media. Have that critical thinking that ask first, is this true? And look for other sources, either to prove that it's true or disprove that it's true. Um, Again, let's not be that frog in that
In the
well,
well.
and also let's avoid the echo chamber. Um, if we, I think that's what in a way the Philippines needs badly is to break those echo chambers. Even I think even the mainstream media also needs to give to open their platforms to dissenting opinions. I feel sometimes that we are talking only to ourselves. You know, the left or the right, the conservatives or the progressives. We all are in this fractious spectrum, right? And that's natural. But I feel like to really break through the fake news, we need to be open to discordant opinions, to opinions that do not fit our own, even just to hear them and to check ourselves that maybe I'm wrong, or maybe he's right, or she is right. Um, and I think that applies to journalists, but also applies to the general public. And that's probably the antidote, the vaccine that we need to check fake news, this virus of fake news. In the end, that's the kind of, we need that vaccine, and we need it right away.
Thank you, Mr. Flor Cruz. And thankfully, that vaccine that you mentioned is now available, unlike the one that we're waiting for COVID-19. Before we end, would you care to maybe say some parting words and maybe some final pieces of advice to our reactors and the other student journalists who are watching us today?
Yes. Well, first, I would like to tell you how lucky you are that you are on the cusp of a very important career as journalist. I really enjoyed my time, my experience as a student journalist, as a campus journalist in college, and as a professional journalist. I will not, I will not replace that, even if I have a chance to redo my life. So I hope you realize how exhilarating, how different that experience can be, and I hope you will steer along that line. Keep on improving your skills, and just wish a little bit of luck, especially in finding a good mentor, and in finding the right platform, and in finding the right tone, the right voice that you need to succeed as journalists. All the best to you, and thank you again to Clink and your team at the Manila Times College. Thank you all, campus journalists, young journalists all over the world, all over the country who tune in today. And again, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Jaime Flor Cruz, and I truly appreciate it. And thank you again on behalf of the Manila Times and the Manila Times College. Dr. Viray, our final activity today, I think, is we have an unveiling of a poster. Are we ready with that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So before that, Sir Klink will be giving his announcement and closing remarks.
Okay. Do we have a poster up? Can we show it? So as I had mentioned in my welcome remarks, that we are announcing that nominations are open for the 2020 Campus Press Awards, and this is the annual awards that we give to campus journalists both in high school and college level. What you see on the screen are the categories. And I encourage you to submit them as soon as possible. I realize that the academic year started late this year because of the pandemic, and so I think we are taking that into consideration in setting the deadline. But having said that, I would encourage you to submit as early as you can. The deadline, as I mentioned earlier, will be announced later, but the final awards will be presented in January 29, 2021. So the first month of next year. So once again, thank you everyone for watching us today. Thank you, Jaime Flor Cruz, for being a keynote speaker, and to the campus editors for being our reactors this morning. The details and the mechanics will be will be published in the Manila Times, and we will be, as usual, as we did with the previous years, we will be sending this information out via email to different universities and high schools across the Philippines as well. Thank you, and so I encourage you to wait for that. Thank you again very much to everyone, and I hope that you found today's Campus Press Forum useful and meaningful, and hopefully I will see you soon out in the field as colleagues in journalism. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that, Sir Klink. So before we bid farewell, once again, thank you, Mr. Flor Cruz, for joining us as the speaker, and the participants for spending time with us. The Manila Times and the Manila Times College would like to thank again the following sponsors. We have PAYAC, Private Educational Assistance Committee, and BDO. We find ways. All right. So again, thank you, Baliwag University, Centro Escolar University Makati, De La Salle, College of St. Benil, DLSU Laguna Campus, Emilio Aguinaldo College Manila, Emilio Aguinaldo College Cavite, FEU Cavite, Infant Jesus Academy, Lyceum of the Philippines University Manila, Lida National High School, Makati Hope Christian School, Marikina Polytechnic College, Manuel Luis Quezon High School, Mindanao State University, Mother Barbara Micarelli School, Pasig Catholic College, Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary, Philippine Science High School Main Campus and Calabarzon, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, San Beda University Rizal Campus, St. Michael's College of Laguna, STI College, St. Dominic College of Asia, St. Edward School, Creston International College, the Manila Times College, the Manila Times College Subic, the University of Rizal System Antipolo Campus, Universidad de Manila, University of Santo Tomas, University of Southern Mindanao, University of Eastern Philippines, University of San Agustin, and University of Asia and the Pacific. And also to all those who stayed with us throughout this session, thank you, and see you again next year.
Today, we face the greatest challenges of our generation. We are staying home to protect ourselves, the people we love, and the most vulnerable. While at home, we find ways to stay human and spread our humanity beyond confinement. Within the four walls of our house, amazingly, we are finding ways to reach out, to help, and to inspire. We find ways to put people first, to be exceptional, giving our best in everything. Still, we know it's a long road to recovery, and the world will never be the same. So let's embrace change, knowing we can overcome these challenges. Every day we rediscover what's truly important. We find new ways to appreciate family, laughter, play. We find ways to bridge distances and be closer with each other. Together we are strong. Together we stand. Together we aim for a new day. We are Filipinos, and we find ways.